You are listening to Film vs. Analytics, a Fantasy Points podcast where each day we discuss a new rookie based on the Dynasty ADP, battling them out film vs. Analytics. I am your host, Brett Whitefield, the film expert. I will be joined by Scott Barrett, the analytics goat. We are Fantasy Points.
What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
If you are interested by the things you hear today, be sure to check out the Fantasy Points YouTube channel, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Also, the 2025 Prospect Guide is out on FantasyPoints.com. All you need is a free login to access. Be sure to check that out and look at each write-up of the guys that we will be discussing on this show. Today, we are talking the one, the only, Travis Hunter. Scott Barrett, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I am so excited to talk about Travis Hunter. You are not. You are weirdly very much not. You've been pushing back. No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I am so excited to talk about Travis Hunter. I love Travis Hunter. So here's how I'll start us off. 2024, he did the unthinkable. He won the Heisman Trophy, the Biletnikoff Award, which goes to the best wide receiver in the nation, the Bednarik Award, best defensive player in the nation. This is an unprecedented trifecta. Never seen it before. We'll never see it again. Basically, he wasn't just the best player in college football. He was basically the best and second best players in college football, or at the very least, this was probably the best season by any player in college football history. He led all power conference wide receivers in receptions, receiving touchdowns, ranked third in receiving yards, on defense just as dominant. He gave up only 222 yards, a 0.52 yards per route run allowed, just one touchdown versus 4 interceptions. The counting stats are great. You look at the efficiency metrics that my model really likes to see. 88th percentile age-adjusted yards per team pass attempt in 2024. Only 5 other power conference wide receivers in this class have eclipsed that mark. You could talk about some concerns in terms of yards after the catch per reception wasn't great. Jim Nagy, our guy, director of the Senior Bowl, now GM for Oklahoma. He came on my show last year. He talked about this. It's a concern with wide receivers because it's not something that you ever really see improve to the next level. I think that's just not really how he wins. Like amazing hands, strong contested catch guy. A lot of his targets also downfield near the end zone, which, maybe doesn't translate to yards after the catch per reception. And then the yards per route run wasn't great. And you hear a lot of the other analytics guys talk about this. I don't think that's a concern at all. He had the lowest expected yards per route run in the class based on personnel and some other factors. A lot of 3+ receiver, 4+, 5+ receivers on and so it's just, it's much easier to get targets, get yards when you're, a Jalen Noel or Jaden Higgins and it's, heavy 12 personnel. So, within that context, I think the yards per route run is really strong. Like I said, the yards per team pass attempt mark I highlighted earlier, great. Nothing schemed, nothing fraudulent, not a lot of screens, minimal work in the slot. And so he put up elite numbers. And if we spotted him just 6 receiving yards in 2024, he would have had more receptions, more receiving yards, more receiving touchdowns than Marvin Harrison Jr. had in any collegiate season. ... And he did this while spending the bulk of his practice time at an entirely different position. He spent more practice time with the DBs than the wide receivers. He also logged an additional 59.7 snaps per game on defense. And so we don't know what his numbers might look like, as good as they were. If he focused on wide receiver full time, if he wasn't splitting his attention and depleting his energy reserves on defense, I think simply put, he is a freak of nature, pulling off of a feat never accomplished before, never to be accomplished again. And I don't think we've come close to seeing him reach his true potential, his true fantasy potential. And I am insanely bullish. I think he's going to be my favorite player in the NFL the second he steps onto an NFL field. I think he's deserving of the 101 pick. I think he can for sure be the NFL's Shohei Ohtani. I think if you wanted to be a full-time wide receiver, dedicate all that time, energy on wide receiver, I think you can be an elite one. Because when you have someone who's done the impossible, you can't put any limits on his potential. We have to remember that the game of football, especially the game of fantasy football, is one ruled by power law players, one ruled by absolute freaks, where it's like the earliest seasons from a Tyreek Hill and Alvin Kamara, Rob Gronkowski throughout his entire career, Tom Brady. You would have said this is impossible, what they did, or at least you never would have seen it coming pre-hindsight. The big issue, the big caveat here is things get trickier from a pre-draft fantasy standpoint because it's so much easier to be a cornerback working in on a handful of packages on offense than the reverse of that. But I mean, you have the Browns saying they view him as a wide receiver. You have wide receiver, like the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL is making what, 10, 15 million more than the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. So maybe that's the more valuable position. And then I think, you get him with the Patriots, you get him with the Giants, and it's like, okay, yeah, he's our cornerback primarily. But I mean, like, he's better than anyone else the Giants have besides Malik Neighbors. He's so much better than any other wide receiver the Patriots have. Like, so I kind of see them like having to go down that route. But obviously, if he is anything less than like a 60% route share wide receiver, that just doesn't move the needle for fantasy. That just kind of means you're irrelevant. It's just so hard to be an impact player. And so that's the big concern, but like, I just love this guy. I'm dying to hear your thoughts. Do you think he's more of a wide receiver, more of a cornerback? Does it matter? Can he do both? What did you see on the tape, Brett?
Are you sure you want my thoughts? Because you just went for 7 minutes.
Because I knew I had to get this in before you try and break my spirit.
First of all, I have a couple administrative corrections here.
Ooh, okay.
He didn't solely lead college football in receptions. He tied with Ty Felton.
I didn't say solely. I said he led, which is technically true.
Tied for the lead. Okay.
All right.
Also,
All right.
It's really funny that he won the best defensive player of the year award, but he didn't even win the best defensive back of the year award, the Jim Thorpe award. That went to T.J. Barrett. So I want to caution you in your optimism from award winning when it's mostly a popularity contest. They don't actually give those awards to the best players usually. If you remember,
how many times has a guy who tied for the lead in receptions won a best defensive or defensive back award?
Exactly. So,
right.
no, I mean, on a serious note, though, listen, the reason I didn't want to do this show is because I just think it's highly unlikely Travis Hunter plays a meaningful wide receiver role in the NFL. I'll give you my film takes on him as a wide receiver, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, I don't see him as a full-time two-way player. Can you convince me that he's built different and he's going to do both to some extent? Sure. I think he's a full-time corner, and that's the projected draft capital of a top 5 pick is because of his cornerback play, not because of his wide receiver play. And furthermore,
you're kind of alone on an island there. I'll just say, like, unanimous, according to all the talking heads, best wide receiver in the class. If he decides to go that, Lance Zierlein had him best wide receiver and best cornerback in this year's class.
If that were true, there would be no debate about what position he's playing at the next level.
Why not?
Because premium positional value, surplus value as a prospect, he's going to make way more money playing wide receiver. And teams are going to get way more out of him on a rookie contract than with him at wide receiver than cornerback. There would be no debate if that were true. If he was clearly the best wide receiver prospect.
So now I'm moving him up my board. Now I'm less nervous about spending a late round 1 pick on him in a pre-draft rookie draft.
We're recording this on March 27th, and we still don't know what position Travis Hunter is allegedly playing in the NFL. He says he's playing both. I promise.
It sounds like you're saying he's a wide receiver or both, because he's nice like that and a freak, unless you just hate his tape as a wide receiver.
No, I don't hate his tape. He would be my wide receiver 2 in the class. We've established it's not a great class, but he would be my wide receiver 2.
How close is it?
Not close. He would rank. He'd be somewhere like 20th on my big board probably as a wide receiver.
What about my point that, he was splitting his attention. He wasn't he was spending more time in the practice room as a DB, train it. Like, you have to train for cardio when you're playing like 130 snaps per game. Is there untapped potential there?
For sure, you put him in an NFL wide receiver room full time, he would definitely grow as a player. And I think a lot of my issues with him as a wide receiver, and I say issues lightly, I don't have a lot of them. The reason I think Tet McMillan is a significantly better prospect at wide receiver is because he's a more refined, detailed player at wide receiver, where Hunter is not. But that definitely comes with the territory of playing full-time cornerback. So I definitely concede that to you. If he were declared a wide receiver today and said, I'm never playing cornerback again, I'd be a little more bullish on him. I would have been more willing to do this show. But let's talk about some of the things I see. So short area quickness, insane fluidity, explosiveness, all those cool buzzwords you want to use for an athletic profile. He's got that, right? And then the thing that his entire game revolves around, whether that's on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball, are his instincts and his insane ball skills. He finds the ball and he makes plays on it. At wide receiver, a lot of his plays were high collision, catch point, go up and win the catch space. It's like a no-fly zone around him on both offense and defense. That's the way he wins. He's not a very good route runner right now. He has the tools to be an exceptional route runner. I'm not saying he doesn't. But a lot of he's a one-speed route runner. He doesn't have a ton of salesmanship in his game, and he relies on burst, explosiveness, and catch point prowess to get it done, which is totally fine.
Yeah. So you have him behind Tet, and I just want to, if you're listening to this, I would encourage you to watch our Tet McMillan video. Apparently a divisive prospect. Todd McShay said he hasn't talked to anyone in the league who has him as a tier 2 wide receiver. So like well behind the guy we're talking about right now, well behind Matthew Golden. He said everyone has him tier 3 to tier 5, randomly sort of dropping in the draft. And Brett and I just didn't agree with that at all. Like, well deserving of a top 15 overall pick, head and shoulders wide receiver 1 in the class. It's hard for me to compare him straight up just because of, there's no frame of reference point here. There's just no one has ever done what Travis Hunter has done. So, but yeah, I would encourage you to watch our video on Tet McMillan. And if you want to say that, I take no issue with it. But again, I just see so much freakish upside.
Because of box score counting stats and that he plays both sides of the ball? Like, what are you basing that on? You've already admitted his analytical profile is not great. Yeah. It's just counting stats. And that he
no, it's really good. It's really good. And then there's the other factor that he's also elite at this other position while playing this position at an elite level. And again, freak, built different. Like this is what you look for in fantasy and NFL is players who do stuff other people don't. And this is the greatest college football season ever. It's an impossible feat. And I think there's no limit to his upside.
No limit.
Yeah. And what he's shown right now is great. Like you better than Emeka Egbuka, I think, better than all these wide receivers we've dumped on. And
that's not very good.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you want to go back into the weeds and get nitpicky, like it was the raw counting stats. It was, you have that age adjusted yards per team, but outside of that, it gets fuzzy. And so a lot of it is riding on that is just, well, we haven't seen him do it full time, but I mean, like, yeah, this is more impressive to me than if like the numbers were 20% better, is that he was a freak on both sides of the ball.
So I worry a little with the both sides of the ball thing. Like he was hurt in every year he played college football.
He was hurt last year. That just makes his numbers look better. Okay. What was he dealing with?
I think it was a shoulder injury last year.
Yeah. And he had a lacerated spleen the year before that. Oh yeah, I worry about that re-rupture of a freak injury. Hey, he has sensitive spleen.
Injury when you play the way he does with reckless abandon. And it's not a bad thing. It's why we love Travis Hunter. I'm just saying, like, you're going to be playing. It's not realistic to expect him to play 100 snaps a game in the NFL.
So many things it's not realistic to see Tom Brady win 7 Super Bowls. It's not realistic to think.
So we're just going to
Tyreek Hill and that
after extreme outlier after extreme outlier. Okay,
but that's how this game works. Is like fantasy football is a game driven by outliers. Like you win your championship, you dominate your dynasty league for multiple years because you have the most freak outliers, and everything within this profile to me is screaming, I am a freak outlier, and everyone else is like, well, you can't play both sides because that's never been done. And it's like, he just did a bunch of shit that's never been done. Built different. freak, outlier. That's who he is in my head.
Okay.
Final rebuttal, and then we'll talk about we can dive more into the most likely scenario.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as I stated, I think top 20 player overall for me as a wide receiver. He has a ton of raw ability. He's got skills. But some of the things I'm seeing right now that are holding him back, a lack of play strength. He gets absolutely bullied in press.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I mentioned he's a one tempo route runner. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't naturally generate separation right now with his route running. So for him to generate separation, it's all on the linear track. Again, it's not a curse. You see the flexibility in the ankles, you see the unlocked hips, you see the short area quickness that all suggests he should be an elite route runner someday if he's a full-time wide receiver. Again, this is why he's my number 2 wide receiver in the class. It's still a long way to go, though. There's a developmental arc here needed. You mentioned he's not great after the catch. That I think comes back to play strength. He doesn't have the best contact balance. He can't take big shots. It's just not as clean of an evaluation for me as Ted McMillan, but he's still my wide receiver 2 in the class. He's not in the draft guide as a wide receiver, by the way, because I firmly believe he will be a full-time cornerback in the NFL.
Yeah. He can take big shots like Ted McMillan. Okay, you were training for two different things. One was on like an endurance regimen, right? To be able to play 150 snaps. Like you're burning like 7,000 calories a game.
Okay, so you're blaming his weight on.
I'm blaming that on that. Oh, and he's a cleaner eval. Of course he is. Ted McMillan. He played one position. The other guy did 2. And then you let's stack up Ted McMillan versus Travis Hunter. Is like imagine if Ted McMillan, spent half as much time in the wide receiver room as he did, and now imagine that every time he went off to the sideline, he was sprinting on a treadmill, and then he had to go back as soon as the offense had the ball. And so, like, of course, it's not as clean of an eval to me.
Yeah, my favorite thing we do on the show is hypothetical back and forth.
I know you hate it. I know you hate it. But
yeah, imagine if Tet did all these things. Maybe he wouldn't be as good of a maybe, but we don't know.
I'm dying to read the YouTube comments and hear what people think. Who do you agree with, me or Brett?
Well, the thing that's frustrating about this show now is I get to look like a guy. I'm a Travis Hunter hater. He's the number 1 player on my board, Scott.
That's right. As
a cornerback. Dang it. All right.
How dare you? All right. Well, sell me on just for shits and gigs. Let's hear you on him as a cornerback.
Really? On
just real quick.
Fantasy Points, Film versus Analytics. You want a cornerback eval? All right.
Was he, is he the best cornerback prospect since Pat Surtain, since Sauce Gardner? Or?
I'd have to look at my historical grades. I'm guessing he is. I've never had a cornerback number 1 overall in a class before. So
how much of that is the wide receiver factor? Is it like a very tiny percentage?
I didn't factor it at all.
Wow. Dude, I love Travis Hunter. My favorite player, the second he gets drafted.
Me loving him at corner just makes you love him more as a receiver, which is fun.
It does.
No, he's dude. The big thing for corners in the NFL are transition speed with your feet, ability to play some type of man match at a high level, and then ball skills, ball production. He racks it up, man. Like he is a no-fly zone. He's going to compete at the catch point. All the stuff you want in a corner, the physicality, it's great. Not great as a tackler, but no one really cares about that, right? We'll teach you how to tackle, buddy. Just go shut down half the field for us. We'll be all right with your tackling. You know what I mean? So he's a lockdown guy. He can play man. It's funny. He as good as he is in man coverage, Scott, I actually prefer him in some type of off match Vic Fangio style defense where he can read and react and we can rely on those instincts and ball skills. His recovery ability too, the way he can catch up to the football is insane. Uncanny stuff I've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And yes, those skills translate to wide receiver for sure. So I'm not going to deny that they don't, but all right, let's do the fantasy outlook thing here. Let's say on draft day, Scott, he gets announced as a corner, but the GM does an interview and says, oh, we're still going to get him involved on offense. We just don't know how much yet. What does that mean for you from a dynasty standpoint?
Oh, that's horrible. That sucks. Like, here's where everything is tricky from a fantasy perspective. If it's anything less than, no, he's a wide receiver first and foremost, it sucks. This is what I said earlier in this episode. It's so much more difficult to be a full-time wide receiver working in on key packages on defense than the reverse of that, where you could just be a full-time corner, get like, I don't know, 5 to 10 routes. But like, that's worthless for fantasy. And then it's like anything less than 60%, which is so much more than that, is absolutely so. Like you need the GM to say, no. This is a full-time wide receiver. Can he play both ways? I don't know. Ask me again in 2 years. But right now we want him focusing on wide. And luckily you have the Cleveland Browns with the second overall pick saying that that's how they view him. So that's encouraging. But then you have, go ahead.
I would say maybe it's the cynic in me, but by them saying that, to me, that I register that as the Cleveland Browns are not interested in Travis Hunter. That's how the NFL works, bro. They don't tell you the truth ever.
Okay. All right.
They don't tell you the truth ever. So, but if they're going to give you a nugget of truth, it's because it doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Sorry.
But I mean, you look at the, Brett, just hear me out here. You look at the top 5 of this draft. It's like the Titans, so weak at wide receiver. They got Calvin Ridley, no one else. You look at the Browns, pretty weak at wide receiver. You look at the Giants, you have Malik Neighbors, you have no one else. Immediately second best wide receiver in the team by landslide. Patriots, you have a head coach who was like sort of a two-way player. He played a little bit of Mike Vrabel, played a little bit of tight end, but defensive minded guy. No wide receivers to speak of. Jaguars, you don't have anything besides BTJ. You just keep going. Raiders, you got Brock Bowers.
You just said the Jaguars don't have anything but BTJ. That's how you feel. Do you really think the Jaguars feel that way? They paying Gabe Davis $12+ million.
Oh God!
They just signed Diami Brown to a $10 million.
Well, it's a new regime. I don't think they have any loyalties to.
Sure, but they do to Diami Brown.
Yeah.
They traded away Christian Kirk because they felt comfortable with what they had, at least.
I don't know. It's a warm body in Diami Brown.
I don't disagree. I think maybe they feel differently. Yeah. Anyway, we should get out of here. But
all right. So did we reach a resolution? You agree with me? Travis Hunter's not just in the Hall of Fame, but he's in that special room that like transcends the Hall of Fame.
If there were one player I would bet on to be a Hall of Famer in this draft class, it would be Travis Hunter.
Exactly. Boom. Done. We agree. Fantasy, it's tough. Ask us again after the draft.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have a much different take for you. All right, that's going to do it for us. We're going to be back with some more wide receivers, but guys, we have running backs coming up eventually. We're going to get there. And I'm very excited for that day. Thanks for sticking with us. We will be back soon.